712 here at Cape Hell. It's Nathan and Bernie in the morning. 232-1542 if you'd like to join the conversation with us this morning. It is Monday, the 27th day of April. Just a few days left in the month. Coming up in our next half hour, we'll be talking with Jackie Russo for Brand Buzz. And then in our 8 o'clock hour, we're scheduled to speak with Todd Starnes from Fox News Channel. But joining us in studio right now, Jean-Paul Coussan. He's running for state representative in the Louisiana legislature. Good morning. How are you? Oh, hold on. Let's try that again.
Yeah, sometimes
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Nathan. Good morning, Bernie.
Sometimes I should try to actually concentrate on the button I'm supposed to turn on. So forgive me. I'm sorry.
It's Monday morning.
Yeah, see, exactly. We were talking about that before. It's like,
yeah,
Monday's
absolutely.
here.
All right. I got to ask you because, look, the Louisiana legislature, they're in session right now. And anybody who is there, the people that we've spoken to, they're like, we can't wait to get this thing over and done with. Why are you so eager to join the melee, as it were?
Nathan, there's a lot of energy in Lafayette, in our businesses, in our people, and I'm looking to harness that energy and bring it down the road to Baton Rouge to support the businesses, industry, and things that we hold dear here in Lafayette.
When we talk about the state legislature, obviously there are a lot of issues that are facing Louisiana as a state as a whole. But what are some of the issues that you feel need to be addressed here in Lafayette that may or may not have gotten really a fair hearing?
I think we need to continue to support small businesses, our energy sector, and higher education. That's first and foremost. We're looking at a session that's going to truly have an impact on things that are happening right here in Lafayette. And we also have an innovative and creative culture here in Lafayette that I don't want people to overlook. When you go out around the state, sometimes people don't realize what we have here. So in large part, we have to take that show on the road and make sure people in Baton Rouge understand that culture that we have thriving over here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you mentioned higher education, and I'm sorry I can't get my words out this morning. It's a Monday. Can you believe it? It's Monday. You mentioned higher education. Of course, we have one of the I guess top-rated universities in the state here in our own backyard. When you hear the news out of Baton Rouge, possibly having to file for financial exigency, you hear Sandra Woodley, the president of the UL system. She says that some of her universities in her system may have to do the same thing. That really sends shivers up and down one spine, I guess, because that is the state that we are in right now. As far as higher education, how do we even try to address that situation? Because when you think of the, $1.6 billion in deficit that state legislators have to overcome right now, higher education, it just seems like they just get the shaft again.
Yep. Well, there's some small steps that we can take, and there's some large, broad strokes that we need to take, fundamental reform. But the first thing that we need to do is try to loosen the reins on higher ed. And this goes beyond just tuition. It really goes to the operating of the universities, on the way that they are able to negotiate their contracts, the way that they are able to negotiate their something as small as their insurance premiums on their facilities. Natalie Harder has said that every dollar that she takes in, she has to send almost half of it back to the state to comply with just the bureaucracy. So we need to get rid of some of that bureaucracy, let these guys run their universities, and so they're not so reliant upon the state funding. The national trend, and Louisiana is basically right there in the middle of it, is that state funding has gone down to next to nothing. So the universities that are preparing for that type of funding are going to be the ones that are able to be successful in the end in the state. But the first thing that we need to do is loosen the reins. The second thing we need to really consider, and this legislature may not be the one to take it up, but we need to consider a constitutional convention. When it comes down to it, still the only things that we're looking at cutting are higher education, and healthcare. And we need to figure out a way, even if it's a limited constitutional convention, which I understand is something that might be available, to look at what other options we could have on the table.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
Bernie.
no, I was just going to say that, it's refreshing to hear someone talking about this idea of maybe even a limited, constitutional convention, from this idea that, we've got to do something. It's obvious that people keep spending. And everybody's working as a House member or a senator. You're working for your particular area of Louisiana. You want to make sure that they get, all the funds back that they possibly can. At the same time, it's led to this really just sad precedent over the years where nobody's really looking at the cutbacks. Nobody really, focuses enough on that.
No, you're
And
right.
if we quit spending a little bit and had better priorities, just be like your budget at home, it might get a little better.
Yeah, well, governing is all about the decisions that we make. And I personally don't want to take another minute before I jump into the fray. I've got 3 small kids, and I think that the decisions that we're making now are going to be the ones that are impacting us 10 and 20 years down the road. And that was the same thing 10 years ago.
Sure.
And so, when we talk about, who's going to be the next generation of leaders in Lafayette, it's not just about in the future. It's about now. So that's why I'm putting my hat into the ring.
We're talking with Jean-Paul Coussan. He's running for the Louisiana legislature, state rep here in Lafayette for the term-limited Joe Robideau seat. Your background, what skills do you bring to the table as far as the ability to get work done in the legislature?
Well, I am a small business owner. I'm a real estate professional. I basically look at payroll every week. I worry about the things that the people here in Lafayette worry about day in and day out: jobs, our economy. I'm a lawyer by trade. I defended oil and gas companies against legacy lawsuits, and all of those things, along with the civic and other local nonprofit boards that I've served on, have led me to believe that I'm a perfect fit for what this community sees as a person that would be a leader.
Mm-hmm. You spoke early on in the interview about, trying to bring more recognition to Lafayette, and I think that's great because, years ago when I first started in this particular line of work, I remember that Acadiana delegation. When I first started 20 years ago, there was an Acadiana delegation, and there was so much more power, it seemed, at that time. Although I think we still have power, it sounds like you would be someone who would want to work more towards getting us recognized in this area.
Yeah, there's no question that to have a strong delegation is really important, especially now, because we're looking at delegations from around the state that work hard in Baton Rouge to represent their entire community. Now, my district is primarily in the city core of Lafayette. I'm proud of that. However, we need to look at it from a perspective of the Acadiana delegation when we take the show on the road. We need to go to North Louisiana. We need to go to New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and South Louisiana, and make sure that they understand why our needs are some of the biggest priorities in the state, specifically I-49 South, which is a major corridor, energy corridor. And so, I agree with you. It's going to be, and to me, that's part of the fun, to bring people back into Lafayette, to show people why our culture is so great and nationally recognized.
We're talking with Jean-Paul Coussan, again, if you're just now joining us. Okay, something that has generated a lot of controversy over the last 2 years, something that Bernie and I were discussing a little bit earlier in this program, this debate over...
Who's got the best hamburgers in town?
That too. And they don't necessarily have to serve French fries with them, apparently. But this debate over Common Core. Now, look, there are critics, there are proponents, there are people on both sides of the issue, there are people who haven't taken an opinion on the issue. Where do you fall on the debate in Common Core?
Well, I'm a parent with one child in Common Core. I share the concerns of the anti-Common Core crowd insofar as, when we talk about federal overreach, when we talk about privacy concerns, when we talk about data mining. And so all of those things are first and forefront on my mind. Where we are now is that basically this legislature has taken up another slew of bills as to try to resolve the issue. What I want to do is, at this point, as a candidate, is continue to track all of those bills to see where we are by the end of this session, and to make sure that our students and our teachers aren't thrown into another tailspin with just total chaos as far as what they're trying to teach our students and what our students are trying to learn. So I think there probably will be some resolution, but at this point, I'm a person that just wants to make sure that the concerns that I have, that the concerns of the folks that have been following the Common Core issue across the country are basically taken care of. And once that's done, I think that those folks, these students, these parents will have a lot better, be more reassured about what their students are doing when they go to school.
Jean-Paul Coussan. Again, he's running for state representative here in Lafayette. Joel Robideau is term limited. Mr. Coussan, thank you so much for talking with us this morning. We really do appreciate it. Good luck in your campaign. We've got Todd Starnes joining us in 2 minutes.